Welcome to Global Perspectives, the podcast where we unpack complex global issues through a critical lens. I'm Boli Tonai, and today's episode is centered around one compelling question. Is it worth it for a city to host the Olympics? This episode is based entirely on an article published by the University of Miami titled, "To Host or Not Host, Ethical Decisions in the Rio Olympics." It was written in the lead-up to the 2016 Rio Games and presents a nuanced view of the ethical, economics, and social trade-offs that come with hosting one of the world's biggest sporting events. The article doesn't just highlight what hosting can achieve, it also raises important questions about who benefits and who pays the price. So today I'll walk you through the advantages and disadvantages of the Olympic hosting, all drawn from this one key source. Now that we introduced the big question and the article we're focusing on, it's time to break things down. The University of Miami article explores four major areas where the Olympics impact the host city: job creation, infrastructure, tourism, and legacy. For each one, I'll walk you through both advantages and disadvantages, as laid out in the article, so we can better understand the ethical tension behind hosting the games. So firstly, job creation. The article notes that hosting the Olympics can create jobs, especially in the lead up to the event. This includes roles in construction, tourism, hospitality, and also transportation. One example is in Barcelona in 1992 and London in 2012, which can be used to show how these events can temporarily lower unemployment and bring income into local economy. However, the article quickly points out that these jobs are often short-lived, or they're not jobs for the long term. And once the Olympic Games are over, employment drops off and many of the opportunities vanish. And worse yet, many of the workers hired during the games are people from lower class families, or maybe immigrants or people outside the community, meaning that local residents may not even benefit at all from the Olympic Games and how it boosts employment. Moving on, infrastructure improvements. So one of the strongest arguments in favor of hosting is the acceleration of major public works, and many projects were completed that may not have been completed without the Olympic deadline. However, as a disadvantage, much of the money spent on venues then become useless or abandoned after the Olympics have finished. And the article calls these white elephant structures that are expensive to build but provide little long-term value. And the article cites Athens and Sochi as examples of cities left with decaying, unused facility and massive financial burdens. And another example is this Qatar 2022 World Cup, where they built all these high-tech stadiums. Moving on to the third concept, which is tourism. The article explains that many cities use the Olympics to serve as a launchpad for long-term tourism growth. And cities like Barcelona and Salt Lake City are mentioned as places that use the games to boost tourism and attract future visitors. But however, according to the article, this isn't always the case. So during the actual Olympics, regular tourism can be disrupted. In places like London and Sydney, everyday travelers often stayed away to avoid crowds and high prices. And local businesses near the Olympics venues were also reported losses due to traffic restrictions and reduced access. Now moving on to the fourth and the final concept, which is Olympic legacy. So the article gives credit where it's due. Some cities managed to build a positive legacy after hosting the Olympics, and it references the LA 84 Foundation, created after the Los Angeles 1984 Olympic Games, which still funds youth programs today. And another example of this is the London 2012 Olympics, which also helped spur urban redevelopment and housing improvements. However, the article emphasizes that the legacy is often more problematic than positive. In Rio, for example, around 77,000 people were forcibly evicted to make space for Olympic-related construction, and the benefits often go to wealthy developers, politicians, or international organizations, while lower-income communities are left displaced, indebted, or neglected. So, what can we conclude based entirely on this University of Miami article? So, the Olympics offer cities the potential for short-term job creation, public works development, tourism boost, and civil pride. But alongside those gains come very real downsides: temporary employment, long-term debt, abandoned infrastructure, and displacement of vulnerable communities. The article encourages readers to ask an important ethical question. Is hosting the Olympics truly in the public interest, or does it mostly serve political and commercial agendas? From everything presented in the University of Miami article, I think the costs often outweigh the benefits, especially when the city isn't prepared for long-term planning. Without safeguards in place, the Olympics become a short-lived spectacle that leaves behind financial damage and social inequality. In my opinion, there should be a new model for the games, maybe rotating permanent host or co-hosting around multiple cities. That way, we can celebrate global unity through sport without placing all the pressure and risk on one place and one community. Thank you for tuning in to Global Perspective. Today's episode was based entirely on the University of Miami article, The Host or Not the Host. You can find it on news.miami.education. If you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to follow and share. Until next time, I'm Boli Tonai. Stay informed and stay thoughtful.